Can we handle the allure and the fascination with those things or those people who tease us? Hi, this is Barry Phillips of 10 Minute Torah, day 1 of Teitze, when you go out. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse number 10, which says, when you go out to fight against your enemies, and Yahweh your Elohim shall give them into your hand, and you shall take them captive, and shall see among the captives a woman fair of form, and shall delight in her, and take her for your wife. Then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head, trim her nails, put aside the mantle of her captivity, and dwell in your house, and mourn her father and mother a month of days. And after that you shall go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. The tease, the prospect of something more exciting, someone more alluring, someone that fills perhaps the whatever perceived void or maybe even fantasy of the mind. The reality of this is that when a man goes out, now when we read this phrase, when you go out, Teitze, at a different level beyond the practical application here, at a little deeper level, it could be indeed referring to the days of exile. That is when Israel and any portion of them are sent out of the land, when you go out. And so the warning here is not just about days of warfare, but also time outside the land. Now, when one enters and engages into active combat, fight or flight, fight, feed, or flight, I think is the three words, you become much more instinctive in your activity, in your choices. It's not time for pondering and considering all the options and weighing them out and taking time to make a careful decision. In combat, you're reacting. And if your instincts are not sharp enough, if you're not acting and reacting fast enough, you may not survive. So when one is in such a mindset, there is this mate tendency that rises up as well. It brings the fullness of the activity of the flesh, fighting, feeding, running for your life, or seizing someone. It's carnality, I guess, or flesh right up on the surface. So a man looks at the captives. Now, there are to be no male captives here. They are to be taken out and they are to be slain. But you may take the children and the women of a foreign land, not within the borders of Israel, but this is a land outside of Israel. You may take the women as captives. Now, it was customary, from what I have read and studied by historians, that when a particular place was under siege, that if it was not going well, the women would dress in as alluring a fashion as possible so that perhaps their captors would desire them to keep them alive and not just wholesale slaughter them. Hard living in these days. And so a man sees this woman. She's exotic. She is different. She's alluring. There's no girl back home like this. Wow. And she captivates him by his vision. And he can only imagine, this is her. This is the one I want. Well, obviously then he's wanting her at a very fleshly level. And Yah says, just hold on, Leroy. Hold on. Take her home. Let's cut off all that beautiful long hair. Wash the makeup and skin dressing off. Take off the jewelry. Put on some regular clothes. Let's trim those nails, get them looking a little bit more like normal. And then let her weep for 30 days for those that she's lost. Well, when the man comes home, from whatever his daily routine would be. And there is a woman whose eyes are swollen from tears, and she's crying. Maybe she doesn't understand his language, and she's just not as beautiful as he thought she was. He will do one of two things. He will either recognize this is a bad idea. Now, Yah says, you have humbled her. And so, if you're not pleased with her, let her go. But you can't sell her. You're not going to mistreat her. You're not going to shame her. You're going to let her go. And so he can either recognize that's the best option, or he can choose to look at the deeper part of her. What is her heart? Where's her mind? What are her thoughts here? What's going on inside this woman? And do I really want to take the time, patience, and energy to invest in a relationship with her? When we are in exile, we're outside the land. It's often thought, well, if we were just in the land of Israel where Shabbat is the norm and it is expected that everything would shut down, how much easier it would be to observe Shabbat. Or the kosher foods, it's much more the norm in Israel, and we wouldn't have to be label hunting all the time. Torah is at least familiar, if not practiced. It would just be a lot of things would be simpler if we were in the land. We're not in the land. We are in a foreign land. We are in exile. And so when we are worshiping on Shabbat, we get looked at strange, and people don't understand why we want to change our work schedule. People invite us to have barbecue with them and don't understand when we're very careful about what we're eating. They don't understand that we have different holidays to celebrate. So this idea of being in a foreign land, we may look at those of the foreign bride, those of the foreign culture, to the Torah, not necessarily just the land, but to Torah itself. And it may seem exotic, and we may want a relationship, and it may become alluring to us. And you might say, well, we came out of all of that and we don't want to go back. But sometimes to make peace, sometimes just to get over the fight, sometimes for a lot of different reasons, things began to look a lot less than what we came out of. And we make a compromise. Do we want to go through this process? And it comes down to the question of who is going to influence and change who. Is this man of Israel who brings the captive woman home going to make life adjustments to appease her, to appease her and to make her happy? Is he going to be less a Hebrew and a little more of whatever culture she came from? Or is he going to understand and retain the thought, the culture that Yahweh Elohim of Israel has given to us in his word, the life processes, the values, the ways of treating one another, the truth that we're walking in is second to nothing. And there are no compromises worth making. Because when you find truth and you find genuine light, there is no element of darkness it's worth trading that for. Is he going to recognize that and stick to that and invite this woman, come let me teach you, come let me show you, so that her life can now be better? Because whatever value system she came out of, whatever ideology and pagan myths that she came out of, they have no comparison to what Yah has given to us. And neither does the culture that we live in and the world that we exist in our exile. Nothing compares to what we have found in his word. Stick to the truth. Stay in the light. Keep walking uprightly. and let others make the adjustment to what you have found. Shalom, and we'll see you again tomorrow.